we have two distinguished guests with us from Semarchy, the Intelligent Data Hub company. Now, I'll just point out that both of our guests are better known in the company by their initials. So firstly, we have their CEO, Thorwald Herbert, better known as TH. And with them, we have their Vice President of Product Success, Francois Xavier Nicola, better known as FX. So to TH and FX, welcome both of you to the Innovation Sandbox. And TH, so I'm going to just put it out there that I believe that your company is incredibly efficient, and you use two-letter acronyms for everybody's names just to drive that efficiency.
Absolutely. And there's only one prerequisite. You have to be incredibly good looking.
I like that. So we are going to start with the current state of the data management world. So TH, we'll start with you. What are the major challenges that you believe organizations are grappling with when it comes to managing their data?
Well, first and foremost, it's the sheer volume of data. Data is growing incredibly fast. Every organization is grappling with the fact that in the age of digital and virtual, the data across their enterprise is that much more important. I think everybody's finally come to that realization, even though that's always been true. And now, most of all, we have just more of it, more information, more data all over.
So more of it, I mean, so there's big data and massive amounts of data that are just being accumulated by organizations, but we've also got more types of data. So I'm going to start off with FX. I'm going to throw you an easy one, FX. I've got a whole bunch more acronyms for you. So MDM, RDM, ADM. I'm hoping you can help us figure out where they'll fit in. And also one more, XDM, because I believe that's something that's novel and unique to Semarchy.
So to understand all those terms, you have to see the data as a stack. You know, at the bottom, you have the metadata, the things that describe the structure of your data. And then on top of that, you have usually reference data. Reference data, simple information like countries, next codes. This is basic info. On top of that, you then have your master data, products, clients, suppliers, all these things. Of course, these guys interact with you, and this is where you have these transactions. You know, a customer buys a product. And then on top of that, you have things, these are brand new, you know, interactions. Interactions are Twitter feeds, for example. This is all the data that you have when you speak about big data. Then all these things are in a stack and rely on things that are underneath, which means that transactions rely on the accuracy of the master data, that rely on the accuracy of the reference data, and of course the metadata is foundational. At that stage, what you have to bear in mind is what we mean by XDM is every time of master or reference data. So that's a pun. We say X for customer data, product data, supplier data, master data, reference data. X means any data you want.
So actually, it's quite interesting because you know, all the kinds of data you mentioned there almost sound like they've been with us for a long time. But when it comes to transactional data, I mean, systems have always had that transactional data. But we've got really new and interesting kinds of transactional data now. So Twitter feeds, social media. It's a different type of transactional data. It's not structured in the way that transactional data has always been. But the overall set of data that a company needs to concern itself with, you know, social media is very important in engaging with your customers. So if you can bring that in, treat it as data, it is an important part of the set of data that you use to drive your business's decision making. So I'm assuming you include all of that as well.
Yes, the Data Hub focuses more precisely on master data and reference data. Okay. However, it is basically the foundational data for anything that sits on top of that. So it's really sitting between, you know, the operations, the business intelligence, and without sound master and reference data, in a nutshell, the rest doesn't work. to make it short, the rest doesn't work.
Yeah, and because nobody gets excited about reference data until it goes wrong, I guess.
Yes, it's not exciting. It's not exciting. You actually need it, but it's not exciting. Okay, it's like plumbing and electricity. You need them, but they're not exciting.
Yeah. So you mentioned the word data hub. I'm going to throw it to you, TH. So data hubs are something that have been emerging over the last while. Can you tell us a little bit about why they've been generating so much interest in the markets and what kinds of problems they're looking to solve?
Well, that's a two-part question. So let me take the first part. What the Data Hub really aims to be is an evolution of all of the traditional data space capabilities around data quality, data management, data governance, and other data aspects. Really getting control of and governing your data in a centralized and strategic way. And doing so for any of your operational and analytical systems, being that in-between point, that central distribution system for all of the information in your enterprise when it comes to the critical information. And doing that, of course, in a controlled, high-quality, trusted way. The second thing is really it's a place for collaboration. So the problem that we're trying to solve is really a business problem. Data is not about IT and how do I fix these duplicates or these data quality issues. It's about empowering the business to take back control of the information they have and to solve their challenges. So we have all different kinds of business problems, and what the Data Hub aims to do is to be able to solve any of those problems that revolve around the data space.
So the Data Hub, again, the picture I've got in my mind is this hub that's bringing together data from all these different data sources. And the purpose of that is to allow access from the business, IT, maybe partners, but very much bringing the business closer to the data. So is that a key role of the Data Hub? Is that kind of bringing it out of the back office and making sure that the business has front row access to that data?
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly it. Putting the control of the data and the information that they need back in the hands of the business, with, of course, the appropriate amount of control and governance being imposed in the form of rules in the system and how it all works. But at the end of the day, it's trying to federate the problem, creating business champions within the enterprise that can take control, and of course doing all of that with a lot of automation. So that you really limit the amount of manual interaction that has to take place in the process, right? Especially with the volume of information today, it has to be heavily automated, and even the building of the platform is automated, but certainly the processes, the business user-facing processes are going to be highly automated.
Yeah, because so conversely, or ironically, bringing the data together and making it easy to access throws up all kinds of problems around privacy and data controls and security, and you've got to build all that into the solution, and that needs to be it's a critical part of that solution. So switching quickly to MDM. So again, for the audience, just to position a Data Hub, they may be familiar with MDM. So I don't know if it's FX, maybe you want to put it on sort of with CH. How is it different to MDM? Is this really an evolution of what MDM has been in the past and taking it to the modern world?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me take that one. So the evolution really has been where we started out with centralized monolithic applications, the traditional CRM or ERP systems 20 years ago, where all of our information resided in one or two applications in a typical business. And that was pretty easy. It makes it very easy to have a single source of truth for your information. But over the years, we came to diversify the application landscape, which started to introduce challenges about different data stores and different sources of truth. And that's where MDM was born, right? And we started to solve those challenges by doing consolidation and deduplication and some data quality. But it was done with multiple different applications and in a very purposeful way only for customer data or product information or maybe supplier information. And the world keeps moving, and today we're at a place where a typical enterprise has dozens of applications that are all mission critical, that all share information about various types of data: customer data, product data, supplier data, location data, pricing data, financial hierarchies. They all live everywhere. And that's where the Data Hub comes in, right? How do I give you the ability, you, the enterprise, the customer, the ability to solve those problems in a tactical way that enables you in a strategic roadmap, being able to take data and managing the master data aspect and the data quality and data governance in a single application, and without any limits as to how big and complex that can get in the future. That's
actually,
really
you know about the different kinds of data and this evolving data world. I mean, back in the day, you had all these databases that were behind applications, but now you've got all these new databases. I mean, you've got data warehouses have been around for a while to drive business intelligence, but now you've got things like all these data lakes that are popping up all over the place. And the reason for that is AI is data hungry, and you need to feed these AIs, machine learning algorithms, pipelines, and data lakes have become very popular for that reason, because you can just, to use a non-technical term, bang all the data in there and then push it into a pipeline and then train these AI models. But that means you've got these new data lakes popping up everywhere. I mean, that means that the scale of the problem surely is increasing.
Absolutely.
I cannot agree more with you. You know, data lakes have just multiplied the problem, and yet the issue is still the same. It's still like in the good old days, you know, garbage in, garbage out, you know, bad data in, bad data out, still applies to data lakes. And it's even worse because today, if you add the AI in the equation, not only you do get bad data out from bad data in, but in addition, you've trained your system that is going to give you the hints and the decision to become stupid. That's what you did by throwing bad data out on AI. You created dumb AI that is going to make dumb decisions for you. So it's even worse. It's even worse than before.
And in the past, the impact of bad data in a warehouse is it gets in a report, and it's wrong, but you've still got a person that uses common sense and reads the report, and they kind of can apply a little bit of common sense. But now you've got a machine learning model, which is almost an entity of its own. You know, it's making decisions on its own. It's not always transparent as to how it's made those decisions. So the fact that bad data has gone in it's very hard to actually detect and work out that you've got an issue there. So you know, it sounds like the problem is data quality issue is even more important than it used to be in the past. So I'm going to move on to the mission of Semarchy. So we've spoken about the data hub, an intelligent data hub. Actually, I don't know if we've spoken about that. Where does the intelligent part of data hub come in?
Oh, CH, you want to take this one?
No, go ahead,
Intelligence.
go ahead.
That's you. Okay, it's me. Okay, the key in the intelligent data, it's not about just artificial intelligence, okay? It's much more about making things in a very smart way. And this is really tied to the fact that our data hub is really focusing on structuring, making sense of the data, having in a single place everything that you need to actually do stuff with your data. And what I mean by do stuff is not just an IT thing, it's a business thing. So it's actually creating value out of the data the fastest way possible. So we believe that being intelligent is about being smart, being agile, and focusing on the thing that really matters for the company. And it's not data quality or, you know, data metrics. It's about value. Everything is about bringing value to the company. And that's what really the data hub and the intelligent data hub is about. It's about creating value out of data.
Now, you used the word agile in there very briefly. I don't know if the audience caught it, but that to me is incredibly important, because if we look at things like MDM, you know, MDM is incredibly important for organizations, but I guess maybe doesn't have a track record of being incredibly agile necessarily. And tends to be the way it works is you've got some very smart people that set it up and you get your MDM going and it works brilliantly. But after 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, maybe it doesn't work as well as it used to, because guess what? The business has changed, the data's changed, and you really need a solution that is agile to allow you to easily, you know, keep tweaking it as you're going and not having to just rewrite, you know, every few years. So that to me is an incredibly important word.
Absolutely, and I think that's, to me, that's the intelligence within the platform is really the combination of the agility, the automation that we apply along the way, the fact that we maintain a level of integrity even in the structure of the rules that you build. We monitor the integrity of it. We make sure that everything's consistent from the way that the application is set up, so that the outcomes are positive, are, you know, what you expect, first of all, and certainly high quality. And it's so important because just like you said, Greg, today we don't know where the world is going to go next, right? And there's constant change. So forget trying to plan where you're going to be in 3 or 5 years from now. Just start building it. And if something changes, you need a platform that is able to adapt to that and that's able to implement that change. And oh, by the way, time to value and time to market is super important along the way, right? If it's going to take you 6 months to correct course, you've missed the train, you've missed the opportunity.
And again, Agile is exactly that. So the ability to embrace change and almost say, you know, change is a given. Change is not something that you may have to deal with. Change is a given. So if you don't embrace change in the solution, then you're dead from the get-go. I'm going to ask a question for a friend. This is a friend, so asking for a friend here. She has a data warehouse, lots of silos of data, and she has to do a lot of work to bring together those data sets for analysis. So she does analysis, takes a lot of effort to bring together that data. How do you help her in that situation?
Build a data hub. In 4 words, build a data hub. No, I'm gonna explain that. Well, the data hub is the place where all your master data and reference data from the various silos should stand. They should stand there. They should be united there. You know, so that when you try to bring in the warehouse or in the data lake transactional interaction associated with that, these master data, linking all these things becomes obvious. The links come from the data hub, because in the data hub you have all your clients, all your suppliers, all your products unified and consolidated from the various sources. And here you do have the references to all those various sources. So when an interaction comes, when a transaction comes, you can relate it to a product, to a single product, to a single client. You can relate it probably to multiple other things. And since when you have this solid foundation of master data, everything for the analytic perspective and even for the operational perspective becomes way faster and way more obvious. You don't have to dig into the various systems. Everything is centralized in the data hub.
I will say I'm excited about. Yeah, so I'm excited about something you said there, because you spoke about this. Sounds like a model that binds everything together. And if you go back to service-oriented architecture, jumping out of the data world into the application world, domain-driven design, and having a good view of what the business domain looks like is going to allow you to build a system that is more flexible, is going to flex better with business change. So I've always believed strongly that domain modeling up front is critical to your application architecture. But it sounds like you're saying that same principle is applied in your model of the data hub, because you've got this model that you're creating. And I don't know if I'm incorrectly referring to it as a model, but it sounds like you're actually building that model, that domain concept model that is then used to tie everything together.
Exactly. In fact, the model sits at the core of our platform. And what we mean by model is not just data structures. It's data structures, rules about the data, for example, data quality, data privileges. This is all rules about the data. If you add on top of that the UIs, okay, everything becomes consistent. And whether you're using the data as backend thing, to push data, ETL, data quality, these type of things, or you use data as a human being, to modify it, the same structures, the same rules apply. And our model is pretty much comprehensive, and it is also extremely flexible, easy to modify. The fact that you have everything in a single place in your data model makes it possible, to add something new, a new piece of data, add the rules, add the privileges, add the UI. And this is exactly how our clients work. They work in a single place where all these things are designed. I don't say develop, I say designed. And then they hit the deploy button and the users can see the new data right away.
And what you're talking about there, you're not building code, right? You're configuring the platform.
Exactly. And I insist, I said design. I had a question just 3 hours ago from a technical guy, and they said, how do we call developers at Semarchy? And I say, no, we call them designers. it's no code. Okay, and
yeah, and actually,
designers.
So it has me in mind of a low code. You get low code application platform. So it sounds like there's a little bit element of low code in your solution as well. You can actually literally build out those simple parts of applications. Yeah,
absolutely. From the data model, we actually generate everything. So there is no code in our platform, and what we are saying is that we are model driven and data driven. So out of the model, out of the data, everything just appears, and it's not magic. It's really generation, okay? and we do all that for the data flows, for the UIs, for the workflows, for the interaction between users. This is all generated out of the structure that you've built in your model. So the governance decision that you're taking are implemented in that data model, and they just appear to the users instantly.
I have maybe just to take us home, because I know we're running low on time, and I could talk to you guys all day, but I'm sure you've got other things to get onto. Can you talk a little bit about a customer experience? So we've gotten very excited about the context of data management. You've spoken about your mission. I'd love to bring it into a real world example and a customer experience to tie it all together. Now, I believe there is and I don't know if it's a TH question, but you had a customer that had a problem with restaurants appearing in the middle of the Hudson River, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a customer at Chipotle restaurants, and they their initial problem was that
nobody likes soggy Chipotle.
No, nobody likes soggy tacos. And they, but their CEO was in New York City and was trying to navigate on his phone to one of their restaurants, and ended up, taking him to the edge of the Hudson River. At which point he realized that the geolocation was wrong. That probably did not please him, and he called some folks. And a few weeks later, they had a platform in place, Semarchy, with a solution for that problem that helped them to master their location. But this is exactly the power of the platform, and why we talk about time to value, speed, agility, and things like that in the space, is that they realized that it's the data really that was the important aspect of their business, and they started looking at other aspects of their business. And they started tackling challenges around menus and ingredients and tax districts and customer loyalty and supply chain and financial hierarchies and all of those types of things. So they're on a multi-year journey at this point. They've implemented virtually every aspect of data that they own and use to operate on Semarchy, and it's working for them. And the fact that the platform is agile and flexible, they never intended to go here, right? They've just been able to add on to it and grow it and build the connections and the relationships between the data and solve business problems one at a time with the Semarchy platform behind it. And that's really what the platform is intended to do, and why we call it the Intelligent Data Hub.
All right. Well, thanks, Kate. I mean, that is incredible to understand and learn how the solution's grown with that customer. I mean, again, everything you've been telling us, which is this is a fantastic solution on day one. You're going to get value very quickly, but actually it's going to grow with you brilliantly, and you can incrementally go and expand how it's used. And this is going to keep giving you more and more value over time. So I think that's going to definitely help our audience understand a bit better how all these cool things you've told us about are actually delivering value in the real world. So I'm going to say thanks to the team. What we're now going to do is bring in the voice of our audience. I know we've gone a little bit long, so we may not have time for many questions, but we're going to move on to a few questions. So as a reminder, submit your questions in the live feed. It'll be to the bottom or the right of the video feed, and my producer will hand those over. So I see a question, and this is definitely, I'm so excited about this question. So I'm going to pick that one, which is something that I've been putting a lot of interest into recently, is this notion of knowledge graphs. And I believe, so the question is with that model that we spoke about earlier, is there an element of a knowledge graph there? Now, I believe FX, actually, this is something that you might be able to give us a good answer on. And I believe you've got some sort of visualization capability in the solution, which is would be very exciting for them.
Absolutely. Master data is not living alone. All this master data is interrelated. We call that relations. This is very simply said. A client has bought a product, is related to the product is related to a site, and probably the site has got employees, and all these things are interrelated. And we keep those relations between the master data in the data hub. And what we provide in the platform is the capability for business users to visualize and navigate those relations in a graph. So the idea is to have a graph view that you can look at, search, and you can infer, you can see, really find things out of the graph. And that's really amazing when you start seeing visually something like one of your clients, another client, and then a lead popping up just in the middle that's related to both clients of yours. And you're just like, there is an opportunity here. And this is where the graph, and I'm not talking about technical bits and bytes and technology underneath. This is where the graph shows all its value. It's when the business user, through the graph visualization, is able to find this little sweet opportunity that's sitting there in front of his eyes and that he would have been unable to see without that graph visualization. This is where it takes all the value.
So I was loving Semarchy before you told me about that, but now that you've told me you've got knowledge graphs, visualizations built in as well, love it even more. So that was a perfect question. As I say, this whole knowledge graph idea has actually been taking, gathering steam, and I see there's a number of use cases, but the ability to literally visualize your data, navigate it, click through, discover relationships. I mean, that sounds like it could be incredibly useful for organizations. So we could probably spend a whole show just talking about that. Unfortunately, we can't. That's all we have time for this week. So to my guests, thank you for joining me today. I've really enjoyed the discussion. I hope our audience has as well. THNFX, I will say, just to end, we have a little surprise for you to say thanks, which I believe my producer is sharing on the screen right now. So hopefully you can see that.
Great. Thank you. Well, we appreciate the opportunity. And please, feel free to reach out to us. If you have any further questions, you can find us via the website.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So we'll be sharing an electronic copy of that little caricature with you. I also believe we'll be sharing electronic copies of a number of, a couple of materials to tell folks more about the solution and the whole industry space. So we'll kind of put that in with the link. So again, thank you to our audience. It has been fantastic having you all with us at the Sandbox today. Please join us again on Thursday, the 25th of March, as we look at data privacy. So we're staying with data, this time we're focusing on privacy. The show is entitled The Privacy Brothers. It's featuring Matt Gast as host, and then Brian and Greg Kordelski as our guests. You will not want to miss that one. Until then, keep well, keep innovating, and we'll see you all next time.